The Prepper Podcast, episode 52.
They've got to know whether or not their president's a crook.
The American people would never vote for socialism. He said, under the name of liberalism, the American people will adopt every fragment of the socialist program.
The Prepper Podcast is an up-to-date survival podcast based on military, wilderness, and modern-day survival and may be found at theprepperpodcast.com. I am Ken Jensen, and this is the podcast about everything survival. My goal is to teach you strategies on self-reliance and to develop survival skills and critical thinking in everyone, resulting in a more resilient and a more enjoyable life. This is episode 52, and today I am answering all your questions. That's right, I know, you guys have been waiting for this for quite some time. I asked you guys to send in your feedback, and you did so. It may have been a little bit too late to be done on the anniversary show, but since this is episode 52 and there's 52 weeks in a year, we can consider today the anniversary episode as well. But that being said, I am answering your questions. So this episode is your episode. You guys have taken control. You guys have just grabbed my mic and taken it for yourselves, and have asked me all the questions that you could ever need answered, and I will try to do my best to answer everything to the best of my ability, and hopefully that will be exactly what you needed to hear. The questions that you guys asked have ranged everywhere from batteries to medical advice to some even more personal advice, but lots and lots of electrical and battery related questions. So this is going to be a fun episode because that is where I am at home in the electrical world. So the show notes for today may be found at theprepperpodcast.com/052. So let's get into the housekeeping. Not a real long housekeeping, but this episode, like I said, should have been the 1-year anniversary, and if you would like to contact me and leave me feedback on other shows, I plan on incorporating feedback, as long as it's coming back to me, into each show. So there will be some shows without feedback. There will be some shows that I have to do all feedback because I just don't have enough time to do feedback and a show. And there will be shows that's like I would like to do feedback first and then do the show right after the feedback, after answering your question. And if I get enough of it, I will try to make that typically what I do. That way, that will be kind of the new norm. I'll give you an answer, then I'll do a show. But for now, I have so many questions that it's going to fill up this entire episode. And not only is it going to fill up this episode, but there is a good chance that I will be filling up the next episode because you guys really came through. You came through and gave me some awesome questions, some of which I have to get really detailed in order to explain. So each question is almost a show in itself. But because this is a question and answer show, I'm going to try to get to multiple things in the show. What this means is that I may not sit here and explain to you the details of everything that I'm going to be going over. I'm not going to stop and explain every little bullet point and explain to you everything. If you asked me to list some stuff, then I probably am just going to go through it and list the stuff. If I feel the need to, if I feel that I have enough time to, then I will explain a little bit further on the lists. But if you expect a list, then that may be what you're going to get. Just want you guys to know that ahead of time. This may be a list-intensive show, but as far as the electrical stuff, it's not going to be lists. That stuff that's going to be very detailed. It can get boring, but I'll try to make it as interesting as possible. like I said, it can get boring. So just bear with me. I have a lot of things to answer. If you would like to leave feedback for future shows, you can reach me at ken@theprepperpodcast.com if it must be written. I prefer that you do not write your questions if possible. I would prefer for you to call 978-KNOWS-IT or 978-566-9748. Or you can go to theprepperpodcast.com, click on the green banner, and if you have a mic on your computer, and you'll hear either today or tomorrow, you'll hear the difference between calling on a cell phone and calling using that green banner. Someone called me using the green banner, and the audio is so much more clear, so much more crisp, because they did a very good job at having a quiet area that they called from. So you want to make sure if you're going to call that you have at least 2 bars on your cell phone, and you don't want to be going over bridges or large rivers or anything like that, because you might swap cell towers, get kicked off, that kind of thing. And if you want to have a reduced amount of background noise. If you have too much background noise, it's going to be really hard for me to bump up the volume in order to make it good for the podcast. If I have to bump up your volume, guess what else is going to get bumped up? All the background noise. So we want to have crisp, clear calls, at least 2 bars if we're using a cell phone, and we want to try to have as little background noise as possible. And like I said, you can click the green banner. That would make for great audio. If you must write me, I said, ken@theprepperpodcast.com. You can also get a hold of me in the comments for today's episode, and you can also get me at theprepperpodcast.com/Facebook, /Twitter, or /Google+, and those will go to my social media pages. If you go there, you can leave me comments on there as well. Now, I have a little bit of news, some pretty good news. Big news if you're me. We have Jay Bradbury from PreparePDX.com. Most of you who have been listening for any length of time know who Jay Bradbury is. He's from Oregon, okay, and he has always been doing our news segment. Well, I'm very pleased to announce that Jay Bradbury of PreparePDX.com may be coming back as our news correspondent. That's right, he may be coming back, and I know that some of you guys really, really like the news episode, the news segment that I was doing in the beginning of the show. And to be honest with you, I don't have the time to do the news segment. I don't have any amount of time to do that. I try to do news and current events whenever I can, but I think it's more important that I bring you the information like I'm going to bring you today. I think it's more important that I bring you information that you can use on a daily basis other than what the latest Ebola scare is or something like that, which is another thing. All of the questions that I've gotten from every single person, all of the questions has been do-it-yourself type questions. They've all been, how can I do this and how can I do that, and what would you have done differently if you could go back and do it all over again? You know, how would you have done it differently? It's all like actionable stuff. What this tells me, what this means to me, is that you guys get it. You understand that what's really important. You understand why we're doing this. It's not about freaking Ebola. I'm glad I didn't get any questions about that. It's not about that. What are you going to do to stop it? Do you have some crazy vaccine that will eradicate Ebola for everyone? No, you don't. So why worry about it? Now, you have to understand, you have to be prepared for if something like this occurs. If a pandemic or something like that occurs, then you're probably going to be stuck in your home. If you're stuck in your home, are you prepared for that? So what you guys have asked me are all actionable items. And because you asked me actionable items, I can tell that you know that you need to focus more on what you can do and not what you can't control. You can control what you do at home in your own preparedness and in your own life. You can't control what the Democrats and Republicans are doing in the Senate, in the House, and in the presidency. You can't control what the Supreme Court is doing, you really can't control any of the modern day scares, any of the scare tactics that media is using on you today. You can't control most of this stuff. Most of the time when I'm reading the news or looking at the news, which I don't do very often because it's all crap anyways, but most of the time when I'm doing that, what I am doing is I'm asking, does it affect me? Can I do anything about it? If both of those questions are a no, then I ignore it. All right. Now, if they talk about somebody passing away or something like that, somebody, a very public figure passing away or something like that, I might, feel for that person and stuff like that. But number one, it doesn't affect my direct life. Number two, it doesn't really affect me. So I kind of have to move on. Well, Jay Bradbury, what he typically does is he's looking at the things that are happening today, and instead of giving you a full hour of crap, like just crap-filled media jargon, he's giving you a 5-minute, 3 to 5 minute segment, and he's just going quickly over this happened, this happened, this happened, and this happened, and then we can discuss ways that you can be prepared for that kind of stuff. So Jay is a very valuable asset to us because he's very good at cutting through the crap and giving you what you need in a very quick segment that we call the news segment. So next week we should be hearing from Jay Bradbury. If you guys would welcome him next week, that'd be great. Give lots of feedback on next week's episode. And tell Jay that you're glad that he's back. Now that I've gone over that, I'm done. I've been asked to do product reviews in the very beginning of these episodes. All right, I told you guys, I will do product reviews when I have products to review. Well, recently I've purchased quite a few things so I can do some product reviews. So don't expect this on every episode. Don't expect me to do product reviews on every episode. I don't have pockets deep enough to buy stuff for every single episode. But I do purchase quite a few things. And when I do, I will try to do a review on everything that I purchase that has to do with prepping. So without further ado, let's start with the product review. The product that I'm going to be reviewing today is called the True Spec Lightweight Pant. It is the True Spec Men's Lightweight 24/7 Pant. All right, and I have a link in today's show notes. If you would like to go to today's show notes at theprepperpodcast.com/052, you can see pictures of the pants, and you can also click on a link that will take you to Amazon where you can purchase the pant. All right, I bought 2 pair of these pants. I bought a pair that is charcoal colored, and I bought a pair that is coyote color, which coyote color is just Carhartt brown. All right, the material is 65% polyester and 35% cotton. The very first thing that I noticed when I got these pants and I opened it up was the feel of the fabric of these pants. It just felt thin, but it felt really, really strong. And I know that it's kind of hard for you to understand that. It was thinner than jeans. But the fabric was really strong feeling, kind of like the outer shell of a Carhartt jacket or something like that. It just felt like something that you could do work in. You know what I'm saying? When I put them on, so after I noticed all this, and I noticed that there was like double and quadruple stitching on everything, I went ahead and put these on. All right, and when I put them on, they have 2 buttons. One button is the outer button is a snap button, and the inner button is kind of like the latch, the toggle and latch type button. So it's a typical button on the inside, but it's a snap button on the outside. Now the legs for these pants were too long. They were a little bit too long. If I wasn't wearing shoes, I could actually cover almost my entire foot with the legs of these pants. But here's the thing. Hemming is an option. You could tell that these pants were finished pants. They were already pre-hemmed. They were hemmed before I got them, okay? Which means that they built these pants to be used. But it is better to have too much fabric than to have not enough fabric, All right, these pants were awesome in the fact that they were too long and not too short, because it only takes a couple dollars at a tailor to hem pants. All right, if you go with high-end pants, typically they will not hem them at all. They will just leave them so that you can take them to a tailor anyways. So if you look at these pants as more of a high-end type pant, then these pants are just, without a doubt, phenomenal. Now, not only were I noticed the 2 buttons, and then I noticed that the legs were too long, but that's not a big deal for me because, like I said, hemming's an option. I have not hemmed these pants yet, and I've worn them several times. As long as you have a decent pair of hiking boots or hiking shoes, these pants really don't get in the way, and they'll stay on top of your shoes, and sometimes it's kind of nice to have that extra length. But the next thing that I noticed was what they call the quote-unquote comfort fit slider waistband. Now, this waistband is awesome. I always look for pants with this type of waistband, and it's hard to find them. It's actually really hard to find them because if you're going to get pants that adjust for your active lifestyle or, for Thanksgiving, if you're looking for this kind of thing, you're usually going to find some nasty looking elastic band around the waist of your pants. Well, everybody knows that most tactical pants have what they call, quote unquote, an active waistband. What my wife and I call them are men's maternity pants. But these pants, you couldn't see that. These pants, all you could see is the actual waistband. But the waistband was solid, just like on a pair of jeans or a pair of dress slacks. The band was solid. There is a hidden portion in the bands. All right, and when you pull them all the way out, you still can't see the elastic in the hidden part. And it doesn't bunch up. It doesn't poke you like the button latch style waistband and stuff like that. There's no elastic. There's no outer elastic or no side tabs or anything like that does any of that. The Comfort Fit Slider waistband is by far the most awesome waistband ever. So far, as you can tell, I really enjoy these pants. Now, wearing these pants, not just putting them on and trying them, but wearing them. When I wore these pants, I could feel the strength of the pants, and I could definitely feel the thickness of the reinforced knee. Like the knee is basically double fabric. I could feel the strength of that. And these pants, although they weren't stiff, but if you starched them, I figure these things could probably stand up on their own. I mean, they're nice, thick, strong pants. But like I said, they actually feel quite thin. So I could feel the strength of these reinforced pockets. And I didn't know this, but the reinforced pants or the reinforced knee in these pants are actually another pocket. It's a pocket that you can put knee pads in. So I guess that's kind of normal on a lot of tactical style pants, but just so you know, you can put knee pads in these True Spec 24/7 lightweight pants. And I didn't even know that until just a few days ago, believe it or not. So I could tell that this was quality. I kept finding pockets. This could take a little while. I kept finding all kinds of pockets in these pants. All right? They kept popping out of nowhere. The pockets just kept coming out of nowhere. I had no idea that there were so many pockets on. I didn't know that there could be so many pockets on a pair of pants. I found a total of 12 pockets. All right, that's kind of just a guess, but there were 2 back pockets, 2 front pockets, 2 side cargo pockets. Each cargo pocket had a magazine pocket on the outside of it. And then I didn't know it, but I reached in there and holy cow, there was a magazine pocket on the inside of every cargo pocket. And then I wore these pants several times, and I didn't even know about this, but there are 2 small pockets in the back of the pants that are really good for pocket knives or something else of that size. You guys know the tactical self-defense weaponry and stuff like that would fit in a small pocket knife pouch. But there were 2 of those. I mean, there's just an insane number of pockets on this thing. There was never a day that I would put these things on that I didn't find a new pocket somewhere. So if you like pockets on your pants, these things have tons of them, and a few of them are actually quite well hidden. So even though these pants are tactical and they look tactical, they do a really good job of not making every single pocket so over the top that you can see them. So the charcoal pants. Well, let me go back. They were all also comfortable in almost all weather. These were at least 3-season pants, and in the summertime, I bet they could get a little bit warm, especially if you're wearing the darker color ones, but it was warm when I was wearing these pants, and they were fine. I didn't sweat too much in them or anything like that, and they were always comfortable. Always comfortable. As a matter of fact, if I didn't have a tactical belt on with them, I would swear that these pants just feel like really stiff pajamas. Now, with the charcoal gray ones, I wore them with a golf polo, because the golf polo breathes and stuff like that. But I wore a golf polo with the charcoal True Spec pants, and basically I looked like an off-duty law enforcement officer. That's pretty much what I looked like. But it looked good. I mean, it really did. It looked good. It basically looked like dress casual. Now, I tried them with the dinner jacket, and it didn't really work that well at all. I figured that if I used the black pants, because they have a bunch of different colors, but I figured if I used the black ones and I tried a dinner jacket with it, it might actually look halfway decent, but it did not look very good with the charcoal. The charcoal it seems like it's going to be better for like for more like a dress casual type scenario. So besides the jacket, the charcoal could be dressed up quite a bit. I mean, I could wear tennis shoes with them and they would look fine, but then I also wore some dress shoes, which I'll be doing a little bit of a review on them on another episode. But not only did I have the ability to wear tennis shoes or running shoes, but I was also able to wear dress shoes with them or boots, and they looked fine. The Coyote was the exact same type of pant. So everything that I found whenever I was wearing the charcoal pants, the Coyote had the exact same thing. It was the exact same design. But it looks kind of like a brown Carhartt work pant. Okay, so take that for what it is and match it with everything else. Okay, it did look good if you had a long sleeve, let me think, more of a plaid type shirt. If you had something like a plaid type shirt or something, it looked pretty good with these pants. All right, as I was traveling for about an hour, we were traveling from where we were staying. We were traveling to go ziplining on our recent vacation. And by the way, the ziplining, tons of fun. Anyways, I was traveling for about an hour, and I had a couple drops on the pants. What actually happened is I had a drink that was sweating, and the drops fell from the cup onto the pants. All right, so if you think about that, you can think about the size of the droplets on the pants. But we were traveling for an hour or two, or an hour, hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes, something like that. Well, what happened is the smaller drops that dropped onto the pants, it took like 30 minutes to actually soak into the pant material. And then the larger drop that was on the pants took almost an hour. So the pants proved to be fairly water resistant, and I can only imagine that that's just due to the real tight knit in these pants. Like, just the fabric was woven so tight that it pretty much was water resistant just due to that factor. Okay, I also bought a pair of 511s. The exact same day that I bought these, I bought a pair of 511s. And they were pretty decent pants. I like them. But in comparison, these pants, now, they may have missed a few like little tiny tactically advanced things that the 511s they look at. Like the exact, like the back pockets. These had Velcro on the back pockets. The 511s I had back pockets that were almost designed like front pockets, for just the ease of getting into things. Things were designed on the 511s and I'm not doing a review on the 511s, I'm just giving a comparison here. The 511s were a little bit easier to get into each pocket, which I know in certain scenarios you may find that advantageous. But in comparison, I liked the True Spec pant so much more than the 511s. And I'm sorry, you guys from 511, but there is something that you can learn, at least from the pair of pants that I have. So the True Spec men's lightweight 24/7 pant on Amazon is a wonderful tactical pant. If you guys want to just go to theprepperpodcast.com/50 or /052. I don't know why I said 50. theprepperpodcast.com/052. And you can get a link to those pants. You can get a link to Amazon. And by the way, I want to let you guys know, I am an affiliate with Amazon. So if you purchase through my website, every time you go to Amazon, okay, if you went to my website first, every time you wanted to go to Amazon, then yes, I would get a percentage of what you bought. Now here's the thing, my percentage is not very big. It's only a few percent. But if everybody that listened to me when they bought on Amazon, bought through my website to get to Amazon, then you guys would definitely be helping me get to a sustainability point in my business. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go to my website and click on and try to find a link and click on a link every time you go to Amazon. That's not how it works. I mean, that is how it works, but what I'm talking about is the fact that I've actually created a link, all right? You can remember Amazon.com, right? And you can remember theprepperpodcast.com. So this should be a no-brainer. If you go to theprepperpodcast.com/Amazon, and that's it, theprepperpodcast.com/Amazon, it would take you straight to the Amazon homepage. The only difference is that Amazon will know that you went through my link to get there. And from then on, for the next 24 hours or whatever, anything that you purchase, I'll get a percentage of income from that. And it does not change the pricing on anything. As a matter of fact, it actually does change the pricing on a few things, but the only changes I've ever seen pricing on when you use an affiliate link is the price has come down a little bit due to there are certain affiliate benefits or whatever. So when you go through an affiliate program, a lot of times you might find that there's a sale on a product that if you didn't go through the affiliate link, that product wasn't on sale. So on occasion, you'll find like a little sale or something that'll make something a little bit cheaper. But in general, it's not really changing the price of anything. All it's doing is helping my business. So if you guys do purchase from Amazon on a regular basis, just go to theprepperpodcast.com/Amazon, and then Amazon will help my business out. All right, so I just thought I'd throw that in there since I was talking about buying these pants on Amazon and the fact that I have the link and stuff like that. Now, if you don't think that I do a very good job on the podcast and you don't like my blog and you don't like all the things that I try to do for people, then that's fine. Go to Amazon without me, and you know what? Have at it. I'm glad that you're still buying the things that you need, and I'm glad that you are preparing and that you guys are going to be able to survive in a bad time, okay? But if you would like to help out my business, just go to theprepperpodcast.com/Amazon every time you go to Amazon. Matter of fact, you can make a bookmark if you felt like it. So now, I know that this was a long intro, but it wasn't really considered an intro since I was going over the pants. But now let's go into our first actual question. This question was from Brian of Grand Rapids. Let's hear what Brian has to say.
Hey, this is Brian from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and my question for you is, what level of medical training do you suggest people try to go for? I currently have first aid with the AED and CPR. I'm considering going to get my EMT basic. I'm just wondering if you think this is a good idea or is that overkill? What's your thoughts on it? I hope to hear back from you, man.
All right, Brian. So what I've got here is you want to know what level of medical training you really need. You're currently first aid with the ability to operate an AED, and you have CPR. You're considering EMT basic, and you want to know if it's a good idea or if it's overkill. Okay? Now, first off, let me congratulate you, because if you can run an AED, okay, if you can run an AED, which for those of you who don't know, an AED is an automatic external defibrillator, which what it is, it's a piece of first aid equipment that will help someone who knows how to do CPR and first responder. If you take an AED, it basically gives you audio instructions on exactly what to do. It's essentially when you see like the movies or whatever, and the nurse or the doctor takes those paddles and they rub them together and they yell clear, and then they put it on the person's chest and the person jumps up about 3 feet. That's obviously not an AED, but an AED is in the field equivalent to what that is. Okay, so if you want to know what an AED is, it's going to shock people to start their heart correctly. If their heart's in fibrillation, ventricular fibrillation, then an AED is going to defibrillate the heart. Basically, it's going to get rid of fluttering in the heart and make it pump right again. Doesn't always work, but an AED is typically better than, it's going to be better than pumping a chest, okay? So an AED, I want to congratulate you, Brian, on having the ability to use an AED. That's a very important skill. So let me give you my answer very quickly, and you can shut it off right after I say this if you want, but I'll give you more after this, okay? But my quick answer is the more medical training you have, the better. No joke. The more medical training you have, the better. I mean, do I have to really explain that further? Brian, let me tell you something. If you really feel that you're going to be in a situation where you need to provide medical attention, then you're going to want the highest level knowledge possible, okay? You're going to want to be able to do everything that you need to do in an emergency situation. And if you're EMT qualified, if you have EMT basic, there's a lot of things that you can legally do now that you couldn't do as a CPR qualified person, okay? EMT is going to bring a whole new level of training to you, and you're going to be able to do things that you just don't know how to do now. And this is something that it's not something that you're just going to use when the crap hits the fan. All right? When it all hits the fan, fine. I have EMT basic. I know how to put this tube down your throat and stuff like that. That's all fine and good. But you're going to be able to use this stuff even before that happens. You're going to be able to use that stuff in your normal life. You know, the next guy, the guy choking at a McDonald's is going to possibly have his life saved by somebody like you because you decided to get your EMT basic. Heck yeah, I think it's a good idea for you to get EMT basic. All right. Now I'm not picking on you, Brian. I'm actually just, I'm being outspoken about this and stuff like that. But that's just to get my point across. I think that you're doing a good thing to want to do EMT basic. Don't consider it. Freaking do it, man. Just do it. Okay. But I'm going to go into this a little bit more now. All right. First off, I just finished a few medical training seminars that you can download them at theprepperpodcast.com/first aid. That's the first aid, the advanced first aid seminar that I've been talking about up until now. Okay, you can purchase and download that, and it's going to give you all the tools you need. All right, it's not a replacement for EMT training. That's a completely different item in itself, right? But if let's just say that you are an EMT, the tools that you can learn from my training are going to help you a lot, substantially. It's going to help you get your kit up to par so that you'll have everything that you need to match your skill set. Now, first aid is great. When you add CPR, you add the ability to save lives from people who aren't breathing, okay? Or that have an obstructive airway. When you add an automatic external defibrillator, you dramatically raise your chances for saving lives. This only works if an AED is available. But an EMT basic EMT basic and true practice can be extremely dangerous, all right? So keep listening to this, Brian, because we're going to go through some of the stuff for this. EMT basic can be dangerous, all right? There are items that you deal with on a daily basis, all right? You're going to have odd scenes. Like, you're going to run into places as an EMT that are not only dangerous to the person that you're going to help, but they're dangerous to you. All right. Now, I understand that you're talking about just getting the training, but if you are an actual EMT, you're going to be running into places that have things like electrical fires. So think about power lines that are down. Power lines that are down, but it's not a hard enough ground to trip the huge breaker down the line. Or we have this thing called an SVC at work. It's huge. All right. I don't want to go into details, but basically it brings our power factor to 1, which means that we use less power. We basically will use less power. It also takes out harmonics, and to break that down, it basically gets rid of spikes in our voltage that could damage equipment and components and things like that. All right, you're going to run into electrical failures like this, things that explode, huge explosions from this kind of stuff. You're going to go into gas explosions, or you're going to be exposed to hazardous chemicals, and you're going to have to suit up and things like that. So it's a very dangerous practice on occasion. Now, this isn't the everyday thing, okay? But I know from being in an industrial environment that the EMTs that have to come out there put their lives at risk because they don't know the equipment. Me, as an electrician, I know get rid of the power source, then deal with the problem. Well, the EMT knows that they need to get rid of the source of this fire or explosion or gas or whatever else, but they don't know the equipment and they don't know where to go. They can't really help the person until somebody who's qualified on the equipment gets rid of the source of the hazard. But you have to understand that there's a hazard there going in, so it can be extremely dangerous. Things that you're going to be responsible for are things like assessing the situation. You're going to be responsible for initial trauma assessment. Now, let's just go through a quick scenario. Initial trauma assessment. Basically, you have to show up to a mass disaster. You have to be able to look at people and determine whether they get care sooner or later. You are going to determine the fate of other people and their health care, their medical care, their trauma care. All right? Now, there's an easy way of doing the trauma assessment. It's called the START method. All right? It's rapid treatment in a mass casualty. Now, the START method, I've actually done a podcast on the START method. Okay? And the podcast was podcast 16, okay? So if you want to go and listen to the podcast on Start Triage, then that's podcast 16. I've also done a blog post about Start Triage as well, quite some time before the podcast. And I've got a link on the show notes for both of those. But podcast 16, so that would be theprepperpodcast.com/016, okay? Now, you are going to be responsible for following the law. Now, I actually have this in my show notes under the heading of how extremely dangerous this is. It is extremely dangerous because the law is always out to get you, aren't they? Half of the job, when you go through EMT Basic, half of what you are going to learn is what regulations or agencies you must follow or be within the bounds of. You will eventually be in a legal analysis of your duties. You could possibly be in a lawsuit. No joke. People can sue you for saving their life. And because you have this level of training, you have to do everything in accordance with the type of training that you got. If you are found to do it wrong, you can actually get into trouble Fortunately, people look at EMTs and paramedics as emergency rescue, and they think that you're doing a great thing for your community. So most people have common sense, and they're not going to honor a lawsuit against an EMT for trying to help someone. But there are some ambulance chasers that will try to get you on every little thing. So just understand what you're getting into if you decide to do an occupation with this, since you have the training. All right, so I said you could be in a lawsuit. You're required to follow all the laws on deceased people. You have to know how to protect evidence at scenes of a crime. So you can't mess up the evidence because you want to help something. I mean, you have to understand the other regulations that other, like the police and stuff like that. You have to understand how to not mess up their evidence. You'll probably be required to create a safe traffic environment as well. Because if you're the first one on the scene, not only is it your job to save that person, but it is your job to keep everybody else safe in the process. So you're going to have to put out things like road flares, debris. You're going to have to redirect the traffic around the scene, and then you can help the person. All right. Now let's list a few of the things that you're going to be looking at when you are an EMT. See, this is not only am I telling you the things that you will be responsible for as a professional EMT, this is stuff that you will be trained on in your EMT training. So what I'm telling you are different things that you're going to be learning. You're going to be learning the medical items like hemorrhages, shock or hypoperfusion. You're going to be bandaging wounds. You're going to be learning the immobilization of extremities, like and immobilization of like the neck, the spine. Even like the spine and the neck can get severely swollen and horribly deformed in a traumatic accident. So in a triage situation, you're going to be immobilizing the neck and the spine when swollen and deformed. And then you're going to have to learn emergency childbirth. So if you're not ready for emergency childbirth, you got something coming for you. It's very important. I actually am a childbirth, emergency childbirth, or I am trained in emergency childbirth as well. I actually am trained on normal childbirth, and we've had 2 home births. So if that tells you anything, I'm going to tell you right now, it is not as big a deal as people make it. But if you are not prepared for it, it is a huge deal. And if you're doing emergency childbirth and you've never actually done it, it's like your first one, you're going to be scared out of your mind. And you're probably going to screw some stuff up. And more than likely, the baby's going to come out fine. But the fact of the matter is I don't know, but I don't think that they're going to teach you emergency childbirth hands-on. It's just going to be, this is what you're looking for, this is what you're doing, and you're going to have a baby in the back seat of a car. So you'll be learning things like that. You'll also be learning things like emergency care for respiratory, cardiac, diabetic things, allergic reactions, seizures, poisonings, environmental emergencies like toxic or noxious spills. Remember I said you might have chemical exposure. So you're going to have to be able to do emergency care for environmental emergencies. People inhaling stuff, people getting things on their skin. You know, if you get like anhydrous ammonia on your skin, that stuff melts human flesh. And if they get it inside their lungs, if you get anhydrous ammonia, or if you get ammonia in your lungs from an anhydrous ammonia spill, it will turn your lungs into mush. And you're going to be dealing with that kind of stuff, all right? And you're also going to be dealing with psychological crisis. And we're not just talking about like crazy people, which that can happen too. But let's think about a psychological crisis. You are a very good swimmer. You're class 1 swimmer or at least class 2 swimmer. You're a EMT, and you're trying to save a drowning victim, okay? You just happen to be at the beach, and somebody's drowning. You are apparently a rescue swimmer as well. which, it doesn't take a lot to be a rescue swimmer. You just have to learn how to swim with one arm in boots with someone attached to the other arm. Okay, but you're trying to rescue this person, and they're freaking out. They're trying to hold on to life, essentially. They're freaking out so much that they're basically dragging you under the water with them. This crap happens all the time, and there have been people on multiple occasions that have had to punch out the person who they're saving just so that they'll stop freaking out. I mean, if it comes to punching someone in the face and them living and not punching someone in the face and us both dying, I'll tell you right now, I'm punching them in the face. Shoot, if I can find something, I'll hit them with something bigger. Anyways, all in the name of saving a life, right? All in the name of saving a life. Well, that's pretty much everything about EMT. So, Brian, I hope that you enjoyed that answer, and I hope that that answered everything. EMT basic, go for it. Now, the next question is Sean from Massachusetts. All right, let's go ahead and listen to Sean's question real quick.
Hi, Ken. Sean from Massachusetts. My question is, what would have you done differently with everything that you've done for prepping? Is there something that you said, well, maybe I should have started with this first instead of all this other stuff? What would have been, a better way to start? That's it. Thank you.
All right, Sean. So this question is going to be, what would I have done differently? Maybe what I should have started on first instead of all the other things that I've done. Okay, so hopefully I can make this one quick, and let's just see if I can make this kind of quick, because we are actually getting near to the end of the show. So, understand that I have researched the most effective ways to quickly raise survival. Okay? I have spent countless hours in the preparedness and survival industry. All right? So, even though I may have started off wrong, the level of knowledge gained from all my research and everything else I've done has been leaps and bounds over the average person, because this is the industry I'm in. I've learned all this stuff. Now, that being said, I have added a lot of this stuff, all the research and stuff that I've done, to my How to Be a Prepper, the 1-year preparedness system that I've done, okay? And that's also for sale, obviously. Remember, this is how I got to make my money, people. That's theprepperpodcast.com/how to be a prepper. But that being said, I've researched all this stuff, so understand that the level that I'm at is mostly just because I've been in it so much. I've been completely engulfed in this kind of stuff. But the very first thing, if I could go back and do it all over again, okay? I mean, when I started prepping, I basically jumped headfirst in the preparedness industry as well. But if I could go back and just do it all again, the very first thing that I would do is plant a really big garden. I would overplant the crap out of my garden. That's the very first thing I would do. That way I know I'm going to get vegetable production. Once I have my vegetable production, then I can decide whether to eat it, whether to store it, or whether to give it away to neighbors and get some relational capital from my neighbors. Build relationships with my neighbors. Okay, the very first thing, plant a big garden. And if it's the fall, which it is now, right? It's the fall. So plant a big fall and winter garden. Next thing is learn to can vegetables. While your garden is out there growing, what you're going to do is learn to can all of the things that you're growing. Some of them are going to be easier than others. Some things you can use a pressure canner with. Some things you have to do it in a bath, in a hot water bath. All right? Some things are a lot easier to can than other things. So you're going to learn to can the easy things first, and then you learn to can the harder things a little bit later. But by the time that your vegetables are grown, you've had plenty of time to research canning. And then obviously there's a difference between knowing the stuff, like getting the intellectual knowledge behind it and actually doing it. So once your vegetables are there, now you have the opportunity to put the knowledge in your head into a skill with your hands. So learn to can vegetables. Then the next thing I would do, and this you could kind of actually say that it's while you're learning to can vegetables and stuff like that, but the garden, it's something that you can do real quick. The next thing I probably would have done was get rid of debt, because debt is slavery, okay? Debt is slavery. So if you don't want to be a slave, if you don't want to be a slave to corporate America, you don't want to be a slave to the government, you need to get rid of debt. So that would be financially one of the first things I do. Get rid of debt. So plant a huge garden, learn to can vegetables, and get rid of debt. Now, what would I have done differently? At first, I was all over the map. I was everywhere. I was into this and I was into that, and I was trying to figure everything out. Which, once you learn about preparedness and you're like, oh no, the crap's going to hit the fan, and it's going to be economic meltdown, or it's going to be a meteor hitting the earth, or there's going to be an earthquake, or there's going to be a tornado, or there's going to be a hurricane, or there's going to be a loss of a job. Something's going to happen, and I've got to be ready for that. I've got to be ready for everything that comes my way. So I can't just do one thing. I've got to go all over the place, and I've got to learn all this stuff, and I've got to do all this stuff, and I've got to spend all this money, and I got to do everything, and I got to do it now. I can't wait. I've got to do it now. You've got to do it now, right? That's the way I was. Now I was a lot more calm about it, but that's essentially the way I was thinking. That's the way most people think whenever they finally get it. When they finally realize that it could all fall apart, they freak the crap out. And when they do that, they get stupid and they get emotional. And I was stupid, I was emotional, and I was all over the place. If I could have done it differently, I would have slowed down. Slow down. Okay? All right. I would have slowed down. I would have planted fruit trees in almost any situation. Like, no matter who you are, you can always plant a fruit tree. I would have done that because the best time to plant a fruit tree was 10 years ago. Okay? So, plant a fruit tree. Plant lots of fruit trees. If you're an apartment dweller, then maybe you can't plant a bunch of fruit trees. But you can try to get somebody's permission to plant fruit trees, can't you? But you have to do it with the agreement that you get the fruit off the tree when you feel like getting the fruit off the tree. All right? The issue is you never know how long you're going to be in a house. All right? I live in a house now. I didn't think I was going to be in this house more than 3 years. I have currently been in this house almost 6. And the first 3 years of being in this house, if I would have thought that I was going to be here 6 years, I would have planted the very first year, I would have planted fruit trees. And I would have had lots of fruit coming off of these trees. So that is the first thing that's one of the biggest things that I would have done differently. All right? You never know how long you're going to be there. You never know how long you're going to be in your current situation. If I wasn't already tied to a location, okay? I'm tied to a location right now. If I wasn't already tied to my current home, if I was like in an apartment or I was renting a house or anything like that, I would attempt to decide on a plot of land outside the city limits, okay? Outside the city's laws and limits. And outside any HOA, all right, because all that is more government, where you can do what you need to do to make your property productive. Okay, Sean? That's essentially what I would have done differently and what I would have started with. All right. Now, Sean actually has a second question, and just because it's Sean, well, you know what, Sean? I'm going to make you wait until next week. I'm sorry that I only got to 2 questions today, Brian and Sean. But I was doing that, review on those pants, and I just really like those pants, guys. and I just I got carried away in the review on those pants. But I'm telling you, they're good. They're good pants. So you can go to theprepperpodcast.com/052 and you can see my review. I'm also going to end up doing a review on them on my blog as well. Because if you don't know, if I am purchasing things to review, I actually do get a tax write-off for that kind of stuff. That's the benefit of this being my business, you know? So I do get tax write-offs. That doesn't mean that I can just go out and buy a bunch of stuff. It just means that at the end of the year, I get a little bit of that money back. So I hope I answered your 2 questions correctly. We'll start off with Sean. We'll start off with your second question next week. I appreciate all you guys do. I appreciate you listening to my podcast. I know that it's been a little while since I've actually given you a good podcast, and I'm sorry for that. It's just I went on vacation, and then I was in this outage where I was working 16-hour days, and it was miserable. And now, even still, I'm still playing catch-up at work and at home from all that time off. And here's the funny thing. All that time off. And then Halloween happened, right? And then Thanksgiving is going to happen. My son's birthday happens. And Christmas happens. My company's Christmas party happens. All this busyness is happening during the holidays. So you have to understand that this is the time of year that I typically try to kind of take it easy. And it so far, it really hasn't been easy. But I promise you, I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to relax. This was actually a really fun show, and I'm glad that I could only get to 2 of them, because that means that I have at least 1 more and maybe 2 more shows that I get to answer questions. And answering questions, man, I'm telling you, each question is almost like an episode in itself, because you guys are asking things that I haven't already covered that I can just give you a quick down and dirty list and then send you to another podcast or something like that. You're asking me detailed how-to questions, all right? You're asking me legitimate, actionable things. So I feel the need to give you all the information possible so that you can, from this point, go forward and you can do it. You can get it done, all right? Something I say at work to the guys that work for me, all right? All I want to hear coming out of your mouth is done, did, delivered, all right? Say it with me. Done, did, delivered. Get it done, get it did, deliver it. Okay, so, and with that, this is Ken Jensen of theprepperpodcast.com teaching you strategies on self-reliance so that you can build a more resilient and more enjoyable life. Have a wonderful week. This is Ken, signing out.